Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into a truly chilling, real-life medical mystery that turned a luxury cruise into an absolute, desperate fight for survival. I mean, imagine setting sail on a dream vacation, surrounded by the pristine beauty of the South Atlantic, only for an invisible, deadly passenger to completely hijack the entire journey.
Section 1. Nightmare at Sea. So picture this. It's April 2026. A cruise ship carrying about 150 passengers and crew from 23 different countries sets sail from Ushuaia, Argentina. Everything is absolutely perfect until day 5. A 70-year-old Dutch passenger suddenly develops a headache, fever, and mild diarrhea. Nothing crazy, right? But then his breathing rapidly worsens, and by April 11th, he tragically passes away right there on the ship. At first, life on board just kind of continued. But then the unthinkable happened. His wife disembarked with his body at St. Helena so she could fly home. Fast forward to April 25th at an airport in South Africa, and she suddenly collapses. She died just a day later. Before long, other passengers started falling ill and dying too. It wasn't until May 2nd that the World Health Organization finally ran medical tests and delivered a totally shocking diagnosis: Hantavirus.
To really grasp the sheer panic this caused, you just need to think about this one number: 50%. The WHO diagnosis revealed a culprit with an absolutely terrifying set of stakes. You see, there's no approved vaccine for hantavirus. There's no specific cure. And in severe cases, it boasts a staggering mortality rate of up to 50%. So when this news broke, countries around the world literally locked their ports and immediately started refusing to let the ship dock anywhere.
Section 2. Meet the Hantavirus.
Okay, to crack this mystery, we really need to understand our suspect. It's a deadly pathogen that scientists have actually known about for 70 years. Hantavirus isn't just one single virus. It's a whole family of viruses carried primarily by rodents, with different types of rodents carrying completely different strains. And because there's still no FDA-approved vaccine or proven cure, doctors are kind of left with only one real option: supportive care. They just have to manage the symptoms and try to keep the patient alive while the person's own immune system fights this absolutely desperate battle against the infection. And when a human does get infected, it typically results in one of two major devastating illnesses.
What's wild is how the virus attacks you entirely depends on where you are in the world. It's a horrific contrast. In Asia and Europe, you primarily see hemorrhagic fever with renal syndrome, or HFRS. This one ruthlessly targets your kidneys, causing renal failure and internal bleeding. But over in North and South America, it manifests as hantavirus pulmonary syndrome, or HPS. This one goes straight for the respiratory system. It rapidly fills the lungs with fluid, causing severe breathing problems that can literally lead to suffocation.
Section 3. Decades of deadly outbreaks.
Now, this pathogen has actually been causing chaos for a while. The virus first grabbed global attention back during the Korean War in the 1950s, when this mysterious illness killed 15% of infected soldiers. A South Korean virologist, Dr. Ho-Wang Lee, later identified it as a rat-borne virus and named it after the Hantan River. But if we fast forward to 1993 in the American Southwest, we see an even more terrifying outbreak. In the Navajo Nation, young, incredibly healthy people were suddenly struck down with flu-like symptoms. Their lungs would rapidly fill with fluid, and they were dying at a shocking rate. Initially, the mortality rate for this outbreak hit a terrifying 75%.
Modern scientists were literally scratching their heads. They were completely stumped and could not figure out what was triggering this sudden, lethal wave. Well, that is, until they finally listened to indigenous wisdom. Navajo tribal elders shared traditional knowledge that gave scientists the critical missing link. They explained that unusually heavy rains had led to a massive surge in pine nut production. All that extra food caused the local rat population to completely explode, which led to the disease spreading like wildfire among the rodents and eventually spilling right over into the human population.
It's basically a massive ecological domino effect. Step 1, El Niño weather conditions brought unusually heavy rainfall to a normally dry region. Step 2, all this rain watered the local flora, causing a huge boom in pine nuts. Step 3, with an all-you-can-eat pine nut buffet, the rodents experienced a massive population boom. More rats obviously meant more virus spreading. And finally, Step 4, all those infected rodents started coming into contact with humans, triggering the deadly outbreak. It's just a stark reminder of how deeply connected our own health is to the environment around us.
Section 4. The human-to-human twist. Okay, here's where things get really crazy. A 1996 outbreak in southern Argentina completely upended our entire understanding of this virus.
For decades, the absolute golden rule of hantavirus was that it only spread from rodents to humans. But this 1996 outbreak revealed a terrifying twist. It was caused by the Andes virus, which holds a really dark distinction. It's the only hantavirus strain known to spread directly between humans. Now, fortunately, it doesn't spread through the air like COVID-19 or the flu. It requires close, prolonged physical contact, like sharing a bed or coming into contact with bodily fluids. So infections usually happen among family members or direct caregivers. But there is a tiny silver lining here. Researchers found that while some infected individuals can act as superspreaders, the transmission window is actually incredibly short. A person is typically only contagious for about 24 hours, and that's usually just during the very first day they start showing symptoms.
So bringing this all back to our nightmare cruise ship, how did the virus get on board and how did it spread? Well, reports indicate that back in March 2026, right before the cruise, that same Dutch couple had gone birdwatching near a landfill in Ushuaia. That's likely where they got exposed to infected local rodents. Shortly after, on April 1st, they boarded the ship. Because they were infected with this specific Anda strain, the virus was able to spread from the husband to his wife and potentially to a few others through close contact during that incredibly brief 24-hour contagious window. Mysteries solved.
Section 5. Prevention and Pandemic Risk. So how did this awful voyage actually end? Well, it was a pretty grim conclusion. For days, the ship was just stranded near Cape Verde, completely isolated, as country after country flat out refused to let them dock. Finally, on May 10th, Spain granted them permission to dock at Tenerife in the Canary Islands. By the time this nightmare wrapped up, there were 10 confirmed cases aboard the ship, resulting in 3 fatalities. The surviving passengers were immediately evacuated, tested, and quarantined, with several needing emergency medical flights to hospitals across Europe and South Africa.
Now, the million-dollar question, could hantavirus be the next big global pandemic? Thankfully, the WHO assesses the global pandemic risk as extremely low, around 95% low, in fact. Why? For the 2 main reasons we just talked about. The virus is only contagious for a super short window of about 1 day, and unlike airborne viruses, it demands close physical contact to spread. It just doesn't have the biological toolkit to sweep across the globe like the flu. But there is still that 5% slice, representing the very real risk of localized outbreaks, especially when weather events like El Niño cause rodent populations to spike. Even with a low global risk, those localized outbreaks are no joke, and because the fatality rate is so high, everyday prevention is absolutely your best defense. You really want to seal up any openings in your home to keep rodents out entirely. If you have to go into a space where rodents likely hang out, like an abandoned building, a dusty old warehouse, or a shed, definitely throw on some gloves and an N95 mask. You've got to be especially careful around rat droppings because disturbing them can kick the virus right into the air you're breathing. And of course, proper food storage and waste disposal are key to not attracting them in the first place.
This whole cruise ship ordeal is just a stark reminder of our invisible, ongoing war with nature. Hantavirus has existed silently for decades, infecting people all over the world while flying mostly under the radar. It really took an isolated ship at sea to remind us of its devastating power. And it leaves us with this final, chilling thought to consider. Knowing that silent pathogens like this have existed alongside us for decades with absolutely no cure, are we truly prepared for the next mutation? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer.